Oh yeah, Hickok 45, displaying the power of the 357 Magnum. We all know, I mean, if you have studied this much at all, if you've been around firearms, that the 357 Magnum is a proven round. It's been in police holsters and civilian holsters for many, many decades. Nobody really questions it. If you study the ballistics, it's very, very effective. One of the most effective. In fact, the 125 grain 357 Magnum round is really considered to be more effective than the 45 ACP, I believe, by most standards and most studies. So, pretty cool. Not a lot of capacity, but does the job. Be nice if somebody would make this in a higher capacity firearm, like a semi-automatic. Oh, get semi-automatic capability, maybe with the same power, and you know, with nice, maybe double the capacity. Wouldn't that be cool? Of course, you have to make the round a little shorter, probably, and kind of an automatic case, you know. Something like this. Yeah. Like the 357 SIG round. Hey, somebody did it. Cool. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the 357 SIG and the 40. All right. Now, get ready. I'm not going to get into the cartridge and caliber ballistics religion that everybody does and tell you how horrible one of them is. Because they both are good. The 40, you know, I mean, it's pretty well proven too. And I know that the 357 SIG is. They both work. They both work. Basically anything, 9mm up works. Even a 380 with new cartridges, new bullets, you know, the higher tech bullets, they work. All right. I mean, as well as any handgun almost that we can expect to work. Handguns, with a handgun, you're underpowered for self-defense to begin with. We all know that. It's as several people have said, whether it's Jeff Cooper or anybody else, a handgun is just something to get you to your shotgun or your rifle, right? Or maybe get you out of a mess. So anyway, with all that in mind, let's just talk about the 357 SIG and the 40. I'm giving you my impressions, basically, and then from what I've read, a little bit I know about it, what I think about it. I've demonstrated and shot both of them. And there are some advantages to both. There are some negatives in my book, maybe to both, I don't know. But just to give you something to think about, if you are perhaps right now looking for the perfect caliber to carry, you've been reading the forums and getting all the wisdom from the forums and then getting confused, right? You're not sure which way to go. Well, we've all been there. We're all still there in a lot of ways. You know, I can start reading. I know Masa Youb is a big defender of this round, for example. I read some of his writings on it. You know, it makes me want to carry it because he's somebody I respect a lot. And same with the 40. I can read about the police shootings or any kinds of shootings with the 40 and how effective it has been, you know, in the years that it's been so common, you know, and particularly, well, not just in use by police, but everybody. So it is a dilemma in a lot of ways. Let's not beat around the bush too much here. Let's just talk about some things. What are some of the advantages to that? Now, if you didn't know, the 357 SIG is basically a 40 case neck down, as you can see, and it's faster and it's lighter. And again, it was designed, and I think it was in 1994, to kind of replace and to give what I was joking about early on, a 357 Magnum performance in a firearm like that. That was the goal. You know, that's hot. Okay, it's there you got a 357 and an automatic that has, ooh, look at that. You got 13 rounds in there, and you can have 15 rounds with a full-size model if you want to. All right, so that was kind of the purpose of it, although a lot of the 357 SIG ammo is loaded down to where it's not as powerful as that best 357 Magnum ammo is and was. Still pretty stout. Okay, so you see a lot of state troopers carrying this round, partly because it's known to be good for penetrating barriers. That's one of the reasons. It's got a flat trajectory. A lot of people will tell you it's got a low recoil, you know. And it sort of does, but it has a lot of blast. Let me take a couple of shots, and just to remind us what it does feel like. Remind me. All right. Yeah, we're hot. Pull it out of this holster. This is my Stealth Gear USA holster, which I like. Okay. Let's pull it out in slow motion and shoot something like Now I don't know if y'all can tell at home, but there's a lot of blast there. But it does shoot well, no doubt about it. Let's go on over there. I see, it shoots a little bit above point of aim. Had to bring her down a little bit, and I just happen to have a little more ammo. But it's a hard hitting round. Ooh. I'll just keep throwing the ammo. Feels good. Let's try it up close here. Let's go to the gong. Oh boy, you can see it moving. It's pretty hard. A lot of blast, a lot of blast. Woo, I feel like before I shoot it, I've got to really get my ears, in tight, okay? So a lot of that recoil, it is a lower recoil probably. It's just, oh, the blast, wow. Because it's fast, it's a fast round. So it shoots well. I just don't shoot it that much, but it shoots well. And you notice this is a Glock 32. This was a T&E gun from Glock that I purchased because I wanted to keep one in this caliber. Why? Because I knew that I would have this capability and plus the other capability, right? Because all you have to do, it takes a long time to do the conversion. It really does. It's something you have to kind of plan for, get your mind right, and set aside some time to do it. But you can convert it to 40 caliber. It just takes a long time to do it, right? Saw that, didn't you? Now let's try that old goat again. Aha, 40 got him down. So that was just a clever little demonstration of how long it takes to convert. That's one of the attractions, of course. I can turn this Glock 32 357 SIG into a 40 caliber very, very simply. So I saw no way to lose. I've got an extra 40 caliber Glock 23 here if I decide I don't like the 357 SIG. But yet I can carry it without too much trouble, right? So you saw all that required. It was just taking that out, putting it in, okay? Now again, this 357 SIG round is known to be an effective stopper. It's carried by a lot of state troopers. The street results are there. It works. And then of course you've got that easy convertibility, so and it really is known as a barrier penetrator. So there's nothing wrong with it, okay? Nothing wrong with it, really. Those are all the positives I can think of. The other positive is it's supposed to feed well because of the contour of the bullet. You got more of a pointed there. So it's supposed to feed better, and I'd heard that for years. Now, it'll serve you well. If you think you want a 357 SIG, you ought to carry it. It's great. Now there are some negatives. It's expensive. It costs a lot per box. Now not me today, because the ammo is all furnished by Federal cartridge, by the way. Thanks a lot. This is all Federal stuff. Even the 357 ammo I was firing in the revolver when we started. So, but when you go buy the stuff, it can be expensive, and because of that, people are. My take on it is, if you're a 357 SIG person, you're determined. The ballistics of that round dictate that's what I'm going to carry. It's what I know it's expensive, but that's what I'm going to carry. It's going to be my caliber. I was telling John earlier, we were talking about that. You show me somebody who is a 357 SIG person, they just have gotten into firearms in the last few years and they chose that as their caliber. I can probably show you someone who hasn't shot thousands of rounds, let's say own a bank. Because it's expensive to shoot. There's a lot of blast involved. To me, it's not as much fun to go to the range and shoot. And quite honestly, that's one of the criteria for me in choosing a firearm, a carry caliber, whatever it is, and the gun. I want a gun that's fun to shoot. This gun, this Glock 23 size gun, a Glock 27, you could send me off to the range with a barrel of ammo for a couple of days with either of those firearms, and I'm happy. We'll shoot long range, short range, do drills, whatever you want to do. They're just great shooters. Have a lot of fun at the range. Now with a 357 SIG, I don't know, it's just not as much fun to shoot, to go out. To me, like the blast is incredible, okay? I mean, it's not incredible, but it's a really significantly increased blast when you fire it, all right? So that's one of the negatives, is the expense, because it's not just the money, it's what else it means. It probably means you're not going to shoot as much. You might not even enjoy, you know, going to shoot 300-400 rounds, whereas you normally would with a little bit lower pressure cartridge, okay? One of the negatives, that's how I see it. Another negative, I had heard for years that one of the cool things about it, and one of the attractions for me, was it'll feed in any 40 magazines. The magazines are interchangeable, which they essentially are, kind of, and that's the beauty. You know, when you're switching a 40 to a 9mm, people will ask me about that. So yeah, you can do that. You get a drop-in barrel and put it in here, put it together, and it'll shoot. However, if you don't switch out the extractor, which requires taking this apart a little bit, and also the ejector, you're probably not going to get 100% reliability, okay? But it'll work, all right. And the beauty of this, though, this conversion, these two calibers, is really all you have to do is switch out the barrel. At least I thought that. I discovered on my own, because I also bought a barrel for my Glock 27 to convert it to 357 SIG. And I was out here shooting both of them, switching around, and I was getting failures to feed. Failures to feed. I have a lot of Glock 40 magazines, and the things were hanging up on the ramp with both guns every now and then, which it did not compute in a Glock. I couldn't believe that. Well, come to find out, and you all can throw in your 2 cents worth on that, you really need to have, yeah, a 40 caliber magazine will work, but it needs to be a certain follower. You know, the number or the newer design or something. I don't know. And I'm not sure what number. I knew it at one point, but I've kind of forgotten what it is. So 40 magazines will work. And at the range, it wouldn't really matter if you had a hang up. But if you're going to carry it, they're not totally interchangeable unless you make certain you've got the same follower, and maybe even the spring. I don't know if it's a follower mainly on that. So all of my magazines are suspect, I think, because a lot of them are older and that kind of thing. So I lost some of that capability I thought I had. That's just, to me, that's a negative. I was of the impression any 40 caliber magazine I have, 357 SIG, no problem. But there are a few problems. Got to have the right follower. And so now, as I understand, the 357 SIG magazines are interchangeable. So if you're planning to do this and have the switcheroo going on with your collection and your guns, you don't have many magazines yet. And I think I'm correct that you're probably better off just buying nothing but 357 SIG magazines, because they work for 40 or this, of course. All right. So you don't have that problem when you're going from 357 SIG to 40. But when you're going to 40 to 357 SIG, it needs to be either a brand new or newer magazines with a different follower, with the right follower. Okay. So that's one of the issues there. Negatives like the recoil and the blast. The 40 is just a little more comfortable to shoot. I don't know what it is. You got a heavier bullet, and it's a more pleasant recoil, even though it does recoil. It just feels better to me. I don't know. It's more like a 45, but it's still kind of snappy, of course. Let's put him back in the holster here. And let's just shoot something here, like that thing here. Whoa. 40 is just hard to beat. I mean, you get a little bit of snappiness even with 40, but you really get, whoa, blast out of that, okay? Now, again, I'm not going to get into the caliber of religion and tell you which is you know, the one to buy. It kind of depends on you. Either one works fine. There's not a real big downside to either one. And also maybe it depends on how much you shoot. If you just go out and shoot occasionally, you know, the expense doesn't get into it as much of a factor. But then again, if you don't shoot very much, you know, that blast is liable to give you a flinch, you know, because it's loud and it's quite a blast. So you know, it just depends on how you look at that. Let me convert it back real quick and show you. Maybe you can tell I'm not going to necessarily do a side by side here, and you know, let's see which one kicks the most and all that. And these have been around for a while. I got the right barrel. Yeah, 357.6. Okay, get in here. You can go to the forums, and I've done that, and I see what people are saying, and some of that I've relayed to you because it's my impressions too. You know, the people that have them both, I think they're pretty wise. You know, they pretty much state it the way it is. They both work, but the 357 SIG, you know, more expensive. There's more blast to it. You know, and reloading I didn't talk about. Maybe you're different than I am. I hate to reload a necked case like that, and I know that's a little more of not a problem, but a challenge to reload when you have a necked case like that. So you're not as likely maybe to reload it either. A straight walled case like the 40 or anything is a little bit easier, you know, less problematic to hand load. So most people, I would guess, who shoot this are just buying factory ammo when they can find it. And it actually is pretty available nowadays. It's just a little pricey. Okay, so you've been seeing me shoot the 40 here some. Maybe you can tell a difference in the, I don't know about the recoil, but maybe the blast. Let's see. Now I discovered that I need to hold a little bit higher, didn't I, on the gall? Let's try that turkey over there. Turning sideways. Let's try another turkey. I mean, it's accurate and shoots fine. Feels to me like it comes back in your hand a little bit harder and you get more blast out of it. And it is definitely louder, okay? And it should be. 357 Magnum is loud. Anytime you increase the velocity, decrease the weight of the bullet, increase velocity, you get more noise, you know, more blast. And well, that might be a good thing. I don't know. If you ever had to shoot, again, the other side of that is, who cares? You know, none of that matters. They tell me if you're involved in a situation like that, you don't even hear it, you know? And so, you know, it's not a problem there. The issue is, how much are you going to shoot? I think that might be one of the, if not the number one issue, one of the top issues. What cartridge are you going to carry? Well, and how is it going to affect your training or your practice routine? Are you going to shoot as much as you would if you carried a 40 or a 45 or a 9mm? Are you not going to shoot very much and get very proficient with your handgun because your ammo is really expensive? Or maybe even in a newbie's case where it just knocks you all over the place and scares you because there's so much blast. You know, I can see somebody taking this into a range, indoor range, for the first time to shoot, and wow, the noise and, you know, and it recoils some too, and the blast of it and everything, and developing a flinch. And so it kind of depends on you and how much you've shot, I think, and just understanding what you're getting. Try one out first if you can, if you're thinking of that. It is always appealing, you know, wow, state troopers carry it, huh? They've done a lot of testing, you know, or the Secret Service or whoever it might be is carrying 357 SIG. That means it's got to be the best, you know. That's not always the case. We know how it is with bureaucracies and government agencies and any sizable organization. Decisions aren't always necessarily made on what's the best, right? But research it, you know, find out what people are saying about it. I've tried to relate and relay some of that to you, my experiences with it, and what I've read on the forums. You know, I can't decide whether it still has a growing following or it's kind of tailing off a little bit. I can't decide. Some people I know who can shoot, and I respect their opinions, carry this thing. They really do. So, but for me, my choice, and what it's come down to, is I'm glad I bought this T&E gun, but for me, it's become a 40. It's another 40 for me, okay? It's another Glock 23. And so I'll wrap up by putting that barrel back in there. And I guess I'll put just a couple of bullets in here, because that's what it is for me. It's a Glock 23, and this is the barrel that I keep in it. All right, it's a Glock. It's a 40 caliber. All right. Now I know a lot of people don't even like the 40, right? So here I'm giving you some information, but deciding between these two. A lot of you out there have no use for either one of them, and I respect that too. It's we're not going to get into the caliber religions, and all that craziness. If a caliber, a cartridge works, it works. And if it works for you, something you can shoot reasonably well, it can't be all bad. So, but anyway, hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into it, a little additional information if you are contemplating the 357 SIG. I don't know. I recommend you shoot it. Borrow one, rent one, and run some magazines through it, okay? Because it's a little bit different. Like me, life is good.